Hi everybody, this is Rob Yates, and this is Lesson 9 in Algebra 1 Distance Learning. This is the third lesson of the third week, and if your teacher is Ms. Boatwright, Ms. Reynolds, Mr. McCrae, Mr. Still, Mr. Strickland, or Mr. Yates, you are in the right place. I want to remind you that you can stop the video at any time if you didn't get everything that was explained and rewind it. Or fast forward if you already know what we're talking about. Today's learning target is I can factor binomials and trinomials using the box and diamond method and other factoring strategies. When you're factoring generic rectangles, the box and diamond method works great, but sometimes expressions aren't set up the way we're used to looking at them, or sometimes a term is missing. And today we're going to look at strategies and how to deal with these oddball problems. For example, it asks us to factor 9x squared minus 4. And there's a little question here. It says, are there any x's? The answer to that is no. So, if we put down our a, we know that it's going to be 9, and we put down our b, well, there's nothing there, so it's a 0, and we put down our c, it's negative 4. And if a times c goes into the top of the diamond, well, see, 9 times negative 4 would be negative 36. And b is 0. We can plug in our 9x squared in our generic rectangle and our negative 4 here. And we just have to look and see what numbers multiplied together equal negative 36 but add up to 0. Well, one of the things that gives us hope is that we know that when we have a multiplication problem that results in a negative, that means it's from a negative times a positive. That's the only way we can get a negative result or product from a multiplication problem. So we're going to go down our numbers. 1, or rather negative 1, and 36 add up to 35, so that doesn't work for us. Negative 2 times 18, again, the correct product, but it adds up to 16, so it doesn't work for us. Negative 3 times 12 is negative 36 when you multiply them, but when you add them, it adds up to 9. Negative 4 times 9, well, again, that adds up, or multiplies out to negative 36, but it adds up to 5, so that's not going to help us. How about 5 doesn't go in, but 6 does? Negative 6 times 6 is negative 36, and 6 plus negative 6 is 0. So there's our numbers. We are going to plug in our 6x and negative 6x, and then come up with our sides. The square root of 9x squared is 3x, and we're going to start there. 3x times what equals 9x? 3x times 3x. 3x times what equals 6x? Well, 3x times 2 is 6x. 3x times what equals negative 6x? Well, the answer to that would be negative 2. So, our area as a product would be 3x plus 2 times 3x minus 2. Pretty easy once we figured out that 6 plus negative 6 equals 0. Let's take a look at this example. It says factor 3 plus 8x squared minus 10x. Well, I'm pretty sure that's a trinomial, but it's in a weird order, isn't it? It's not in the order, descending order that we like, where the biggest x's are first and the constant or just the numbers are last. So let's put it in order. First thing we have to do is have 8x squared. Then our x term would be minus 10x plus 3. Now, that means that a is 8, and this is much easier when we put them in order, and b is negative 10, and c is 3, and A times C would be 8 times 3, or 24. B is still going to be negative 10, and since we now know what our x squared term is and our constant term is, we're going to put them into our generic rectangle. So our job, like it's been in the past, is to find the two numbers that multiplied together equal positive 24, but added together equal negative 10. Now the only way I can have a negative sum and a positive product is if I multiply what? Think about it. Pause the video if you can. Decide what you have to multiply to get a positive product and a negative sum. And then stop the video. Welcome back. I hope you turned the video off or stopped it and thought about it. You have to have a negative times a negative to get a positive product and a negative sum. So we're just going to go down our numbers. Negative 1 times negative 24 adds up to negative 25, doesn't work for us. Negative 2 times negative 12, again, adds up to negative 14, doesn't work for us. Does 3 go into 24? Yes, it does. So it's negative 3 times negative 8. Again, the product is positive 24, but it adds up to negative 11, which is close, but not negative 10. How about 4? Does 4 go into 24? 4 times negative 6 is positive 24, and it adds up to negative 10. So here we go. Those are our two numbers. We're going to put them in here, negative 4, negative 6, and we're going to put them up here, negative 4x, negative 6x. And we're going to go ahead and start with a 2x and a 4x. 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times what equals negative 6? Well, if you said negative 3, you are correct. 4x times what equals negative 4x? Well, if you said minus 1, you would also be correct. So our product, we just get the sides and we write them down. 2x minus 1 times 4x minus 3. So there's a couple of examples of how you handle tricky trinomials. What if we get something like this, negative 6x plus 12 plus 4x squared? There's actually a sort of a checklist that we can go down. Are the terms in order of descending powers of x? The answer to this is no, because if it was, it would be 4x squared minus 6x plus 12. There is it in the correct order. Is there a greatest common factor? If we look at 4x squared, that equals 2 times x times x. If we look at negative 6x, that's 2 times 3, or negative 3, times x. And if we look at 12, it equals 2 times 3. Here's our common factor, 2. If you pull out a 2, we would have 2 times 2x squared minus 3x plus 6. Can we factor 2x squared minus 3x plus 6 anymore? The answer to that is no. So that's our final factored trinomial. How about this one? And it's the last one, according to Ms. Reynolds. It says factor 12x squared minus 16x. It says, are they determining powers of x? And the answer to that is yes, right? Because x squared's first, and then it's 16x. Is there a common factor? Well, let's take a look at it. 12x squared equals 2 times 3 times x. Negative 16x equals negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times x. What are our common factors? 2 2's, 2 2's, 1x, 1x. So 2 times 2 times x is our greatest common factor. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times x is 4x. The answer is yes. 4x is the answer. That would give us 4x times what's left over. What do we have left over? We got a 3x here, and we have a negative 1 times 2 here, or negative 4. So our final answer would be 4x times 3x minus 4. Can it be the expression be factored anymore? And the answer to that is no. So that's our final answer for this binomial, 4x times 3x minus 4. Use those 3 steps when you're a little confused about how to factor. All right, let's look in our summary. When the expression looks complicated, I can try these things. I can put the terms in order, right? ax squared plus bx plus c. Biggest power of x comes first. In other words, the x squareds. I can factor out a greatest common factor. That is the biggest number that goes into each one of those terms. And if it looks like I can still factor it, try a box and diamond from there. What next? Well, you can log into Khan Academy. You can go to student.desmos.com. You can try Practice Worksheet 9. You can go to Google Homework 9. And now, for everything you've been waiting for, the joke of the day. Why did the fish blush? Well, because it saw the ocean's bottom. That's all for today, folks. I hope you have a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.